And thank you guys for joining us for another episode of Black Coffee and Crime. This week is our first full show back since our long hiatus. If you did not see last week's show, we just kind of did a catch up, talked about some things that were in the media over the last couple months when we were gone. Basically, we're just here to talk about crime shows, crime movies, crime documentaries, crimes in the media, and other things that we may find on Al Gore's internet that we find interesting. We're not law enforcement professionals. We just do this because we like it. If there's having said that, if there's anything that we say that seems to be incorrect or whatever, we didn't make it up. We can be corrected. Just please leave us comments on Facebook or Instagram, or send us an email at info@blackcoffeecrime.com. Be respectful, as we try to be. So also saying that if there's anything that's offensive to you, is triggering to you, please use the X in the upper right hand corner of your browser and watch something up. There's that. All right, so there we go. So Brandy's down there looking like a superstar this week. I look like somebody's rich. Brandy's looks like a rich auntie. I look like somebody's tired mama. Jackie just looked like she's just been through this week. Like it's just been a week. So, we are all in varying stages of whatever right now. So, I don't know if today is going to mark the end of last week or the beginning of a new week. I don't know. I don't know how we're going to do this. Are we going to claim a new week?
Yes.
Okay, we're going to claim a new week. Good boy.
Better. It's gonna be better.
These last 7 days for me have been something else. Something else.
I'm just trying not to get all this glare in my glasses.
I mean,
so I can look trustworthy.
Listen, as long as your neck is on a swivel, you look trustworthy. But when you can't move your neck, you don't look trustworthy.
I know. Now my shoulders is all messed up.
Yeah, she didn't have uncertainty in her shoulders all week.
Now I look undecided because it feels like my shoulders is doing this.
Undecided shoulders. As promised, this week we're going to talk about Our Father, a Netflix documentary that premiered a couple months ago in May. Yeah, so we're going to talk about that. But quickly, even though we said we weren't going to do but y'all kept sending me the videos of the dolphins. I don't want any more. I don't want to know about dolphin sex.
That man is sick and then charged with animal cruelty.
Oh my God. And then, okay, so there's a guy on TikTok, a young black guy, and he's awesome. He does like animal stuff. I follow him. Okay, so yesterday, I was trying to get away from the dolphin sex, and it just fell right into dolphin sex. So apparently, dolphins will use like eels or squid or something and wrap it around their appendages for a little one-on-one personal action. So
would you hate to be that eel?
When I saw that, I was like, oh, I gotta see Mr. Brandy. What?
So everyone thinks of Flipper. They are not Flipper. They are not wholesome animals. They are their levels of intelligence means that they just do stuff, and I cannot with the dolphins. I can't. They're killers.
That's as bad as the monkey with the frog. I felt so bad for that frog. Just choking.
Oh my God, that video was out of my memory. It just came back.
I felt so bad for that frog. That frog
I forgot about it.
I felt everything. Just devastated.
Oh my God.
We need to start venturing out into animal crimes in the animal world. We did the elephant and the monkeys. Apparently there's some baboons in Japan that's trying to kidnap people and breaking people's houses too. So the animals are not happy. The animal kingdom is not happy. So during the pandemic, animals, were flourishing. They were in the streets. They were doing their own thing. And now we back to work and back in the world, and they're not liking it. They're like, go back in the house. And if I see a monkey or anything trying to get in my house, that's what I'm saying. I can work from home. I can work from home. I can tell my job, look, I can work from home. But something's going on in the animal kingdom, and I just can't with it. I cannot.
Why, BW? Why?
Now I gotta go look up the video to find
You
the
didn't see the video?
I have seen it, but now I have to see it again.
Yeah, why would you want to see that? Poor frog was suffering.
Yes.
You brought it up.
I know, I was just correlating it to the dolphins. But
I told y'all in the last video, remember I said dolphins freak me out because when people tell me about dolphins, I always think about all the documentaries that I've seen, animal documentary. My daddy is in love with animal documentaries. And dolphins are sexually aggressive. They have so many videos of people going on like those dolphin things, like those little excursions, and the dolphins wrapping their appendix around these women's legs and trying to take them.
the crazy thing is,
no, that is disgusting. I just couldn't.
My favorite mammal is dolphins.
No.
Has been since I was a little kid.
I have a former coworker who just went on a cruise, and she showed pictures on Facebook of a dolphin excursion, and that's all I could think about was, "Girl, are you okay?" Like
there's some
you need to file charges in the Caribbean against these dolphins.
Literally, like so many videos of them sexually assaulting people. Like they sexually assault. Like
I think of them in terms of killing other animals in the way that they kill top predators.
Oh, they're so smart.
And there's some dolphins in the Amazon who are super, super violently aggressive. But I'll find that documentary there. So we'll talk about animal crimes. But we can go ahead and start talking about Our Father. So this is a documentary. If you have not seen it, it premiered in May on Netflix. And it has everything to do with, this is a new term that I just found out, which is called fertility fraud. Basically, what fertility fraud means is a failure for a doctor to gain consent to use his own sperm during insemination. I never thought about this being a thing, but apparently this has been going on since the 60s.
Yeah.
And it's bad. Okay, let's talk about Our Father, then we'll venture into all these other doctors. So basically, the doctor's name is Donald Klein, and he was a very prominent OBGYN in Indiana. And all the women went to him. Well, let's just say white women went to him because there was not one black face in this entire documentary. So there's a reason why that is true. And basically, they would go to him when they weren't able to have babies on their own. So he would help them out either through artificial insemination or in vitro, things like that. And also donors. He was telling them, which is supposed to be true in most cases, that there are certain donors, people get to pick the features and kind of the donors go through a screening and all this. And so he was telling the women, his patients, that the donors were medical students at the university that he taught, and that it would be anonymous. So they all assume that Dr. Klein, he's a pillar of the community, everyone loves him. And of course, you naturally trust your doctor.
Well, there were some that were getting inseminated with their significant other's sperm.
Right. Yeah. And he was
not the medical students.
Right. And so they trusted him. And then in 2014 is when all hell broke loose. In 2014, a woman named Jacoba Ballard did like a 23andMe at-home DNA testing. Well, if you're not familiar with the way that works, you send in your DNA swab, your DNA, and when you get it back, you set up an account, and it will tell you, one, what are your genetic markers for wherever you may have come from, your family. But it also connects you to family members who have also done this type of at-home testing. She had over 3,000 hits of potential relatives. That's a lot. That is a lot. So come to find out, a lot of these people turned out to be her half siblings, which, as African American people, we don't know what a half is. You're just a brother or a sister, no matter who your mama is, who your daddy is, and how long I've known you. But for the sake of this, a lot of half siblings. She's wondering how that's possible. Because how? The doctor was for those patients who were going to be inseminated with anonymous sperm, they were only supposed to use that sperm no more than 10 times.
Right.
So that woman's child would potentially only have 10 siblings out in the world. So for 3,000 people to have 3,000 hits come up was ridiculous. So
Was
she
it
starts
10
questioning
times? I
things.
think it was less than 10 times.
It was supposed to be
it was
like no
4.
more than 10.
Well,
Like no more than 9 or 10.
Right. That was the limit that he could use the sperm was 10 times. I mean, I'm sure they just assumed he didn't do that, but that was like the limit he had on using the medical student sperm, no more than 10 women could he use the same sperm.
That
But
way you limit the possibility of having multiple siblings with the, DNA. You never know what could happen. So Ms. Ballard starts questioning things. She, of course, goes to the clinic. If they don't want to give out records or whatever, no one's listening to her. She finds out she has all these siblings and they're connecting with each other on Facebook, and they set up Facebook groups. Finally, she goes to the medical board. She goes to the DA. They don't want to prosecute because there's no law at the time. There was no law in Indiana against what he had done or what he allegedly had done, which was use his own sperm without consent. There was no law against that, which is ridiculous. It is ridiculous. I just don't understand why there would even have to be a law that says you can't do that. Doesn't that?
I mean, him having the stance that he had in the community definitely played to his advantage.
Yes.
Being the Christian, pastor that everyone looked up to and respected, and he may not have been a pastor. He may have just been an extremely important person in his church. I can't quite remember because I
think
watched.
he was like a deacon or something in the church.
But him having that kind of title literally saved his ass. One.
Oh yeah, because everyone in the community revered him.
Not a big deal. He said sorry after he said he didn't do it forever.
Even the judge who sentenced him was sympathetic to him, not the 96 siblings that were in the world. So basically, he gets caught. There's a reporter. Miss Ballard contacts this reporter, and in 2015, the story breaks. Dr. Klein's biggest concern, though, was not malpractice, not any wrongdoing on his part. His biggest concern was my wife is going to think, his wife of 59 years at this point, is going to think that this is adultery. And he asked Jacoba Ballard and the reporter to kill the story.
Yeah. That's the thing. If you thought that your wife would think it was adultery, and the Bible speaks against adultery, then you know it was wrong.
Yes. He knew it was wrong anyway. In general, considering that you follow the Bible, you already know that's wrong. It didn't even matter. You knew that was wrong.
But I think I know that you all are Christian and religious, but I think that your oath as a doctor.
Yes.
To
Just
do
like
no
when you're an
harm.
attorney, to do no harm, but just also like when you are an officer of the court, an attorney, you're supposed to go in there regardless of how you feel religiously or
Right.
anything. You're not to project that on your client or your patient.
Right.
His religion shouldn't have had anything to do with
Agree.
his practice as a doctor.
Agree.
And he really, really took liberties. Like, there was a lady, excuse me, someone's in my eye, who basically said that she had been SA'd 15 times and didn't even know it. That's how many times that was part of her impact statement in court, was that she had visited him for insemination up to 15 times, and she had been SA'd that many times and never knew it. Like, he would go into his office, drape, and excuse me.
Yeah.
Ooh. Ooh. Okay. I can't see. These were the days when you would go into the office and they would put the modesty cloth basically over you. You'd be in the stirrups and they put that cloth so you couldn't really see what the doctor was doing down there, but what he was actually doing was having sex with these women and they didn't know it. You think they're using a speculum and this, and he is sexually assaulting you when you're in the doctor's office. You leave and you think everything is everything. 30, 40 years later, you find out that you have this man's child.
I mean, it is kind of odd though, because a specimen is kind of hard. Maybe they were just so excited or very determined to have the children that they wanted, and try to get through the process. Because I found it kind of hard not to know the difference between a human and a.
Well, I don't think he was putting his junk in there. I think because it did say that he would go into another room, ejaculate or whatever to get his sperm, then walk across the
And put
hall
it in
and inject it with whatever they used to inject it with. I don't think he was actually having sex with the women physically, but the woman was saying because it was done without her. Yeah, without her knowing.
There was an incident where he did do that to one of the women. I'd have to go back and
watch it.
Rewatch that and find out which woman he did that to.
I do remember him
but also
walking across. I just, like I said, it was literally the day it came out is the day I watched it. I was just like, I watch it.
Yeah.
So
I think they did say that he did get aroused while he was injecting. Is it injecting, right?
Yeah, it's like long.
Injecting the sperm into one of the women.
Because that's like secondhand sexual contact. That he's having with them. Knowing that what I'm doing is I am basically having sex with you without contact. You know what I mean? It's like watching. He has the opportunity to have a voyeuristic kind of pleasure of watching what he's doing and knowing that that woman has no idea that he's doing this.
Yeah.
And there's so many crazy parts to what he was doing. He did this from 1974 to 1987. 1974 to 1987. Like, you crossed over into 3 different generations. And he would depict, like when you go to your OB or, OBGYN and they deliver your baby, you send a picture of your baby to the doctor. He had all the pictures of the baby.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them have the blonde hair and the blue eyes.
Yes, they did.
Right. So one of the things that was brought up the kind of in the documentary was the fact that he was doing this on purpose, He's a part of a religious group called Quiverful, which is the same one that the Duggars are part of. They use a verse in the Bible, Psalms 127, 3-5 to, let me read that. Let me read the verse. It is from the King, well, let me do the New King James
Are you talking
Version.
about the Quiverful
Yes.
Yes.
one, or are you talking about I've known you in your mother's room?
Well, that's what they use. This is quiverful.com, and don't come for me, Quiverful, because this is
But
on
there's a verse that says something about having a quiver of children. I can't remember the verse.
Right, this is the
I
one
don't
I'm
know.
about to read.
Oh, okay.
Psalm 127, 3-5. Behold, children are a heritage from the Lord. The fruit of the womb is a reward. Like arrows in the hand of a warrior, so are the children of one's youth. Happy is the man who has his quiver full of them. They shall not be ashamed, but shall speak with their enemies in the gate. So that's the verse that particular religious group uses, kind of as their ideology for having as many children as you are to be blessed with. So I think that was
the verse that he spoke of was the one that says, "I've known you when you were in your mother's womb." I can't remember where that's at right now. Usually Jackie's are quick
I'm not sure. It might be in the same place, but I just know that was the verse that.
I know what. Let me look.
Okay.
But I think definitely that whole, have as many children as you're blessed with. And he said that he was just trying to help the women have children. Well, they were there to be inseminated, but not by him. And a lot, like Randy said, some of these women were actually supposed to use the sperm of their spouse.
It's Jeremiah 1:5.
Okay. And what does it say?
It's
mother's womb.
Hold on, let me go back to something
it. Like, know you.
Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Yeah. I set you apart and appointed you as my prophet to the nations.
Yeah. That's kind of what they're using for these abortion bans is what we talked about earlier. But some of these women, like I was saying, were supposed to be using their husband's sperm. He was substituting that out. So to me, that proves that you weren't trying to help these women, that you were doing this for you, because they were supposed to use their husband's sperm and you substituted yours. Basically, it's like he had a God complex, like they say some doctors do, is that they really hold your life in their hands. And I think he wanted to be someone who could say that he had the most children out of like his group, because it was like a community group that they were in. Even the judge, and I might be misspeaking, but even the judge that was in some of like the DA, some of the the elected officials were a part of Cornford. They were a part of the same religion, so they understood, or at least kind of condoned what he was doing. Like, it's not.
I don't think it was just about. I mean, we have to say also that it was about producing, in my opinion, more white, blonde hair, blue eyed.
That's my opinion, is that it was to produce more Caucasian, blonde hair, blue eyed kids. Like, that was the purpose, to build more of that, which they do reference it somewhere in there. I just can't remember, but and it may have been a theory of someone else's, but that's when they ran with that theory, I was like, that makes sense.
So I think by the end of the documentary, did we find out they knew of 90 something children?
Mm-hmm. And it was up to 96 by the end of it.
And there could be more.
There actually was more. As a matter of fact, Netflix has been or is currently being sued. I think is. I think that the article came out in May of this year. Netflix is being sued by 2 of his children because they were outed by the documentary. Like, basically, like, you destroyed our lives by saying, like all this stuff is coming out. And of course, it changes your life because it changes your sense of identity, like who you are, who your family is, who your dad is, and all that stuff. But they're being sued
because only people that in any documentary, they can't involve anybody who didn't agree to do it. So just because you went digging after you watched the documentary, you know what I'm saying? Like that kind of, it sucks that happens to you, but you can't sue them.
Or you said, I'm willing to give you my story, but I don't want my identity known. But I was, while researching, this afterwards for this show, they do have a family reunion every year so that people can be used to recognizing each other, because they really had a problem with possible incest with their children, possibly dating one of their siblings, because they're all pretty much located in one central area. So they've been holding
miles of each other.
So they've been holding these family reunions so that people can actually see, okay, this is my family member. Because I think once that they had seen one of their siblings at the beauty salon, and another one in a store. Yeah, lived on the same street with one of the siblings and didn't know, played on a sports team with one of the didn't know. So they've been having these, I think the article I saw, that it was up to their second family reunion where they all go just so they can familiarize each other and make sure that their children don't end up in an incestuous relationship with a cousin that they didn't know about.
This is crazy.
And there's 96 that they knew
of the documentary.
At the end of the documentary. So, and that was just the people who had actually put their DNA in for the genetic thing. So if you say you didn't do that, then how would you know?
How would you know? It's very interesting that this was in Indiana. Indiana historically is a very, very racist state. Come from me if you want to, but it's true. They actually had a eugenics law passed at the turn of the last century that basically forced sterilization of those people who were considered undesirable. Forced sterilization and eugenics is not new in this country. It's not a new concept. More recently, when we think about eugenics and sterilization, we think about Germany and the Holocaust. These people were very, very comfortable with that. Henry Ford was a eugenicist.
And then wasn't there a story in the 70s about a group of Black women that were sterilized in the 70s? And I think there was another one in a Latin American country where the women were also sterilized against their will.
Puerto Rican women. There were some women in Mississippi. There was a story that I read about that where there were two sisters. I think they were from Mississippi, and they were supposed to go for an outpatient surgery. And basically, they went into the hospital. Their parents were supposed to come and pick them back up. The hospital did not have any record of them, could not find them for days. Come to find out, they had been sterilized. They were teenagers, not finished developing or anything. They did sue. The sisters still live together, but just think about how traumatizing that is. But as I was saying, Henry Ford, eugenicist. Charles Lindbergh was a eugenicist. The guy, Spirit of 76, all of that. American hero. Come to find out, they said, and this is an aside, but just think about this, okay? One of the most famous cases that was the first trial of the century, crime of the century, was the kidnapping and murder of the Lindbergh baby in 1939, right? I think it was 39. Well, there's a theory, because Charles Lindbergh was a eugenicist, and eugenics is all about creating the perfect human. They're saying that the Lindbergh baby, Charles Jr., there was something wrong with it. And the way that that murder was set up, and the clues and the details of that just don't make sense. But there were so many people in the house, but no one could hear someone climbing up the side of the house to kidnap this baby, that he paid someone to kill that baby because he wasn't perfect. Come to find out, Charles Lindbergh had a whole second family in Germany.
Wow.
Multiple children in Germany. While we're touting him as an American hero and, you know, thinking of his letters to Anne Morrow as the most romantic things in the world, this man had a whole nother family that he created because they were Aryan. This is what I think Donald Klein was doing, trying to create the perfect, because all these kids, for the vast majority of the 96, they're all blonde and blue-eyed.
Mm-hmm. What? There's a movie. I should have wrote it down, but I was, going through some things earlier. But there was actually a movie. It was a comedy about a man who had inseminated women with his sperm, and I think one of the kids ended up but it was a comedy, and the reasons that he gave was similar to the reasons that the doctor did in Our Father.
Let me look it up.
You
looking it up?
Yeah.
And I know that some of his children felt a certain way about that movie.
Delivery Man. It says delivery. Wait a minute. It says Delivery Man.
That might be it.
Yeah.
It was a doctor who inseminated.
An American comedy drama, a remake of something. Okay, whatever. But yep. Say return to work where a lawyer represents the sperm bank, who tells him that the clinic gave his samples to women in the clinic and that his fathered 533 children. Is it that one?
I think so.
Is it a Vince Vaughn in there?
Vince Vaughn?
So.
Yeah. And that's the Delivery Man.
Yeah.
Was that the dog?
That was the dog. He sounds like Gozer from Ghostbusters.
Sound like he done coughed up a shoe.
He smokes 6 packs like he smokes Newport. The dog smoke Newport?
He heard a noise. That's it. That's the bark, because he heard a noise.
Was that a bark?
Yes. When he barks, he holds the note. So it's like,
sound like he got too much pepper in his throat.
Like he smoked 2 packs and drink Parmesan.
Oh my God.
No, but seriously, like this dude, it's scary that doctors have this much power over people and that they can really do things like that. Let's see, there was some other doctors, like I said, I didn't know that this was a thing, but there were some other doctors, and again, this is called fertility fraud and also egg theft. There was a doctor in Italy in the last couple years that would tell women that they had like ovarian cancer or ovarian cyst, and what he was doing was actually going in and extracting their eggs and then giving them to other women.
What?
He did it like 60 times. Yes.
Oh
but why he just wouldn't use the eggs of the women that he was
getting
that wanted to be inseminated? Because
I don't know, maybe
then you're spreading whatever that illness is that the parent had.
They don't care.
Just like the doctor, he some of his kids have
his same
illness from his sperm. I want to say Lou Gehrig's, but that's probably not it.
It said that it was rheumatoid arthritis and all the complications that come with that. But yeah, so they don't care. They don't care. So he did that. There was also a doctor, Cecil Jacobson, in the 80s. He's fathered from Virginia. He fathered like 7 kids.
It was an autoimmune disease and rheumatoid
arthritis.
Yeah, and then his own personal autoimmune condition. Yeah, those are.
Yeah.
And how pure are you if you have an illness?
Autoimmune disease. Yes.
Right. You're blonde hair and blue eye, but you're sick.
Yeah. And you have been sick. There was another doctor. This was the one in the 60s, Quincy Fortier. He did this in the 60s. 26 children. There's an HBO documentary called Baby God that came out in 2020, so we have to watch that too. Again, he was only found out because someone did a home DNA test. He died in 2006. She did a DNA test in 2018. She found this out then. So this is not new that these doctors are doing this. Part of it, I definitely think it's a God complex. They get off sexually on this. They get off psychologically on doing this to people. I don't think that I think a small part of it in the very beginning, the idea of it is, I'm going to help these women. They're going to have babies. They're going to reach their dream. They're going to have a baby.
And then he thinks he's some kind of prize too.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Who wants your DNA? Like the lady, when you're saying that you're passing on your disease, this is the story in Our Father that sickened me to my stomach. Out of all of this, the lady who said that her mom had gone to Dr. Klein, of course. Dr. Klein was also her physician.
Her gynecologist.
She was one of the 96 children.
Yeah.
He knew that she was one of the 96 children because he had her baby picture he knew that was
sick.
That was his daughter. And the only thing she said that she had twins, and they also had his genetic she has whatever autoimmune disease that he has, so she's worried about passing that to her kids. And one of the things that she worried about was when this all came out was, did he do the same thing to her? Because she had fertility issues as well. So she used him for as a fertility doctor. So she was wondering, did he do the same thing to her?
Them children have more than autoimmune disease.
Do you know what kind of trauma it is to find out that your doctor is your mom's doctor, but is also your dad, who's got your hoo-ha up in his face, and he did that to your mom, so you're thinking, I had to use him for the same services as my mom. Did he do the same thing to me? Are my kids his kids too? I swear, I put that video on pause real quick because I could not move forward. Because when she said that, I was just like, oh my God, please don't let that man have done the same thing to her. And again, he was so unapologetic.
Yeah, very apologetic.
My thing is, he didn't get in trouble for this at all. He only got in trouble because he lied. He had a $500 fine and something.
He got 1 year suspended sentence.
Yeah. So he didn't
obstruction of justice.
Yeah, he didn't spend any time in jail. He got a slap on the wrist. It wasn't even a slap on the wrist. That was just basically collect. Go straight to go and get out of jail.
He was convicted of a level 6 felony for obstruction of justice, which was because of the lies. He was not convicted for what he did to these women and to these children. He was convicted because he lied. That's it. Because again, there was at the time. Now there's a law against fertility fraud, and it's also a level 6 felony. But at the time, there was no law against what he had done in Indiana, and I think that there was no law because the eugenics law in the beginning of 1901 or 1911, the eugenics law there in Indiana, they wanted white children. Like that has always been like the push for white kids. I mean, that's why we're going through Roe versus Wade right now. That's why the law was repealed, because for the first time in a very long time, there aren't a lot of new white people being created. They're biracial in some way, or just the numbers are going down. So it's always been a scare that European people in America would at some point be the minority in America. And that is one of the biggest scares. And so things like this like remind you that this stuff does happen and people are still doing this. And I'm not saying like the religious ideology of quiverful is wrong, because if you want to have 50, 11 kids, have 50, 11 kids. But I don't like the thought of the genetic engineering and stealing people. Basically, I think that's what it is. You are stealing people. You're stealing people's lives. You're stealing their kids, so that you can, somehow live your dream. But he got, like Randy said, he got a fine. He lost his medical license, but he was old as Methuselah anyway.
He had already retired. So it didn't even matter.
It didn't affect him.
And on top of that, his wife stayed with him too. His wife stayed with him.
Where are you gonna go after 60 years? Do you think that his wife didn't know what he was doing? Do you think she didn't know? Do you think the wife
may not have known? Because that means she'd have to be all up in the office, and
I don't think she knew.
I don't think she would know.
Office, she wouldn't know that he's walking.
The people he worked with didn't know. His partner didn't know.
Yeah, you think nobody knew? Somebody knew.
I think the people who knew were the men that because they did say that he was part of some like social group or whatever, and all of the people in the social group were had the same ideology. I think those men knew what he was doing and condoned what he was doing, and that's why no one wanted to touch this case until the news story broke. No one wanted to touch this case. They ignored the hell out of Jacoba. Because I think they all knew and they were all okay with it. But maybe the women in their lives didn't know, because like you said, their partners, the medical partners didn't know, had no idea that that's what they were doing. This is like I said, this reminded me just the not what happened, but just the kind of obliviousness of everything reminded me of Kidnapped in Plain Sight. How people are just like, I just had no idea. Like, I didn't know. And I guess it's also a generational thing, because we no longer have to do the whole modesty thing when we go to the doctor. Like you see exactly what your doctor's doing now.
They still give me the little paper cover.
Really? Oh no. No.
And even if they didn't, I wouldn't be able to see what they're doing.
But you can see the doctor.
But if I'm getting inseminated, if he walked his sperm across the hallway and inseminated me, I wouldn't think anything of it, because that's what I'm there for. Now, if he was jacking off right there on the other side of the privacy cover, then yeah.
And that's what he was doing for a lot of
But he wasn't always doing that. He wasn't always doing that.
No, not always, but I'm saying on some of the occasions, yes, he was.
But you see his body tensing up and all of that on the other side of the thing, you ain't got no questions, because I'll be like, what the hell?
But I think also because these people are baby boomers. This is a different generation. They didn't question this. You didn't even talk about
veins popping all out in his neck and stuff like.
Yeah, But in that generation, you didn't even talk about that, even though you were going to be artificial. That was something kind of still taboo, artificial insemination in the 60s and 70s. You know, you would, and also you wouldn't dare say that your doctor sexual assaulted you, even if you thought he was doing something. You wouldn't dare.
But clearly, these women didn't know at all.
No,
it's just crazy that all of these women went to him and their lives are now like destroyed because you thought that was your husband's baby for 4 years and it's not. Like what do you do? What do you do with that information? Like, how do you come out of that?
One of the fathers, he couldn't talk about it for a long time.
I mean, yeah, just imagine like because I don't know if that was the dad who had a low sperm count, so he had to do the insemination. Like that
No,
was
this
the
was
best
the dad
way.
this was the one who was supposed to be inseminated. His sperm was supposed to be inseminated into his wife. So
I
the
know,
child.
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Like he had a low sperm count or something. So the best possibility of them having a child was through insemination. Like it had to be like a targeted type of, clinical medical procedure rather than a natural way. And then to find out, like you're already having this trouble and, possibly questioning your masculinity. And then to find out that 40 years later, that didn't even happen.
Low blow.
And the bad part of it is, it's just that he was so unapologetic. It's like he didn't even care. He had no empathy for what he had no empathy for them.
It really pissed me off to see how much he did not give a damn. Like it was pissing me off. The emails he kept leaving her, pretty much telling her he wasn't going to apologize for what he did, and that he's not wrong for what he did because it needed to be done. Like in short term, that's pretty much what he told her. Like I did what I did. I did it. Okay, I'm not apologizing. And I was like, this little bastard.
And then remember that the lady's tires ended up getting slashed, and no, her brake line, or was it tire? No, the lug nuts
came
off, and then the other ones, she kept getting calls asking about a burial plot. She kept getting calls about a burial plot, and then another one that would just be a call and hanging up.
Yeah, he got his people after. He did wrong, but he's sending his people after.
That was just nuts. Like I couldn't even I think my jaw was on the floor the entire time I was watching this because I was like, this is sick. And he had nothing. He didn't have empathy for the parents. He was not apologetic. And then
it seemed like he didn't even care or even think that they were his kids. Because remember, they had a meeting with him at a restaurant, and they were all. I mean, it was like he had no connection to them whatsoever. Like they were.
And I don't think he did. Because I think he still thought of them as somebody else's kids. The kids that he had with his wife, those are my children.
Yeah.
Y'all are just.
It doesn't make sense why you would do that anyway if you don't even care nothing about them or anything. Why even do it?
He's doing it for society. He's doing it for society. He's doing it to put more desirable children, desirable people in the world. But you didn't, because I'm not saying that these people are flawed, but you passed on your genetics, your faulty genetics to some of these kids. Well, all of them, but some of them inherited your deficiencies. So it does beg the question of what was the point? Why would you do this? But he never considered them to be his children.
No.
He used himself as like a puppy mill. You know what I mean? Like he was just turning them out, and you got your baby. But it's kind of like, but if you had a supply of sperm, either from the husbands or from donor sperm. Why would you need to do that? Like, psychologically, like, what is going on in your head that says you need to do this? And he didn't have any, as far as I know, there was no psych evaluation to try to find out
He had the resources to do it.
motivation.
I mean,
Yeah.
if the ultimate, because which I expressed, I think that the purpose was to create more white children, look a certain way. If the religious group that he believes in this manner of some sort, he's the perfect person to do this. Because I mean, look what he does. I mean, he inseminates people. He is more than willing to be, and especially considering how strong he felt about his religion and how strong he felt about his position. He's the perfect person for this. Why wouldn't he? Perfect person, considering what they need, what they want done. I mean, he has all the means to do so. I mean, look, they have people already set to be able to help him, protect him from what they needed him to do. I don't know. When I watch stuff like this, I always be thinking like there is really some corrupt ass shit that go on in this damn world. And you're just like, this is crazy. I had never heard this. This is crazy that this shit was.
They used to. I have a sick fascination with Nazi documentaries, and what they had a program called Lebensborn, and they basically would match German Aryan women with SS officers, and just to have children. So you would have multiple SS officers with, one SS officer with multiple women as long as she had kids. Then they would take those kids, like the women didn't get to keep the kids. They would take the kids and basically raise them all together because they were trying to build for this 1,000-year Reich. But yeah, they had a program that they would match up, so that they could have these blonde, blue-eyed children populating Germany and the rest of the world pretty soon. That's what the ideology was. That's what the plan was. But that's what they did. So you think about, just think about the generations of people now living in Germany and in Europe who don't know who their parents were, who were just literally a number from an SS officer to an Aryan woman. And we got the perfect baby. We got the perfect. And what happened to the babies who weren't perfect? What did y'all do with those?
What did you guys do? The boy in the blue striped pajama. If you watch the movie, you know what I mean.
I know what you mean. I didn't watch the movie, but I know what you mean.
Yeah, don't watch the movie.
I'm not. I have reasons why I'm not gonna watch the movie because it's not realistic. But
I was traumatized.
But it's sad.
It completely traumatized me. And then, like, I watched it. Okay, it's awesome. So all the way up until the last 30 minutes of the movie, that's not happening. It just hit at once, just like bam, this happens. And you're just like, what? Well, I thought it was gonna be all right. Like I thought things were gonna change for them, but it didn't. It was so traumatic. Yeah. And my watched it with me. You should have seen their faces. It was just brutal. We was all in that tour.
Lola read the book, had to read the book for school. I don't know if she watched the movie, but I know she had to read the book for school, which I was okay with her reading the book. That's fine. But yeah, it's a thing. It's a thing, and I think people still do it. People still create the perfect baby when they go to get inseminated, and they can genetically modify a child to get the most desirable features out of a kid to create the perfect baby. So I guess Dr. Klein and Dr. Jacobson and Cecil Jacobson and Fortier were kind of ahead of their times with doing this, but it's just like you said, Jackie, it's a sick, sad ass world.
And it is sick.
That people do this.
Sick.
That people do this, but again, we're still doing that right now. Like these people talking about, you get, the abortion ban, and I want a baby, but you only want certain kind of babies.
Mm-hmm.
There are adoption agencies that have different tiers of what it costs to adopt a baby based on the baby's race, and everything else. So white babies, you're gonna pay a pretty penny for white babies with pure white babies. I forgot. I don't know. I saw a list from an adoption agency.
Well, ain't that many people that know it?
Right, but you can go to a biracial baby, you can go to a Hispanic baby, an Asian baby, and further on down. But you could, but that's what they want people to be. Is basically, they want puppy mills. They want puppy mill babies. So that was just weird. So that was our take on Our Father. It's still on Netflix. I just saw it when I was scrolling today. It's still there on Netflix. You can still watch it. If you guys haven't seen it, you still can go back and watch Kidnapped in Plain Sight. Boy, if I tell you, that is the most unbelievable shit I've ever seen.
It just came on the whole. I'm talking about from beginning to the end. I literally, and I have feels do like this.
We did a show on Kidnapped in Plain Sight. So if you want to watch the documentary and then go back watch the show, just look on YouTube. It's in there. I forget what episode number it is. But boy, if I tell you, that is the most unbelievable thing I've ever seen in my whole life. Also, Baby God is on HBO. Take a look at that. That came out in 2020. That I've never seen anything like that.
No, and I don't even know if anything will top.
All right, guys. So that was our take on Our Father. So go and watch those other documentaries. We will see you guys in a couple weeks when we talk about probably another documentary or some other gruesome ass crime we can come up with. If you have any ideas, drop them on Facebook, in the comments on Facebook, Instagram, or on any of our previous videos or episodes. We do appreciate that. Thank you to all the new viewers that we got. Even though we weren't active, we still got some new viewers and new followers. So thank you.
I just recently watched, and see if y'all watched it. It's about this boy who does he's a gamer and he does these fake SWAT calls, and the SWAT calls end up getting someone killed. Because
I haven't seen that.
I saw it.
That was wild. So the boy, just real quickly. So the boy, he does SWAT calls, fake SWAT calls for gamers, right? They pay him to do it so people can watch it, because a lot of them do stream live when they're gaming. And so one of the boys got upset because of a $1.99 bid that they lost and ordered him to do SWAT on that boy. However, that boy moved. So they did a SWAT on a whole nother house in which that man was just killed for no reason because the police officer was aggressive. Even though they told him to stand down. So he ended up shooting and killing the poor man that lived in that home, which was a family of 5. He just opened up the door what? And they shot him. And the guy shot him and killed him, an aggressive officer.
Was a Hispanic. I think it was Hispanic man, wasn't it?
Right. Which led to his niece, who he was the father figure of, being so traumatized that she committed suicide in front of her boyfriend, who he also committed suicide from the trauma of watching her. So I saw that, I was like, what? And then the police officer doesn't get any charges, but the boy who originally called the SWAT gets the charges, gets jail time, 20 plus years. But
the police should.
Oh, most definitely. But the point I was saying is, why didn't the police officer? Because you can clearly on the video. I'm gonna send you a video. They literally tell him stand down. They tell everyone stand down, but not him, Mr. Hot Hands. One shot killed him.
Just like every other officer who doesn't get any time.
I have to send you that. It is crazy.
Send it to me so we can watch. So I can watch it and we can talk about it. But we will go ahead and say goodnight to you all. So enjoy that second cup. And we will see you guys the next time. Good night.
Good night.
Jackie already asleep.
Yeah, I'm on 3 hours of sleep. I'm tired. Moving on 3 hours of sleep.
Good night, y'all.
Good night.